Awesome. Welcome, Kutu, to the Delicately Wild podcast. I welcome you with open arms. As I've said to everybody else, this is really just a chat. And the objective of this podcast is one, as I said to you, it's an onboarding process for those of us that are joining the AZURITE Temple. But obviously, for our viewers, it's an opportunity to chat through different people from around the planet who are going through different experiences on their ascension journey. And I think it's really rich and full because it gives us really a broad perspective of what people are going through, and people from all different spaces, places, religious backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, land masses. And that is the juicy part, because we can get stuck in following certain spiritual leaders or spiritual teachers, and that becomes our new doctrine. And this Delicately Wild podcast and show is really just to showcase human beings on their path, and all the things that they're going through. And so far, it's been such an honor and so amazing to chat to everyone and to see where the interview goes. I don't plan anything. I just kind of begin. So without further ado, I welcome Kutu. Please share with us, you're welcome to begin anywhere. A nice segue point is how did you find me? Or another segue point is where did your awakening begin? Those two often coincide, but not necessarily. So please feel free to share.
Hey B, so good to hear from you, man. It's been a while, hey?
Yes. How are you doing?
I'm excited, right? And a bit anxious. You won't believe, I just prepared myself in the past 15 minutes
I
with all
believe
the
you.
alarms.
I believe you.
And when I prepared, my mom said, and I said, but I'm grateful I had this 15 minutes, to get ready. My mom said to me, if it's meant to be, God will make it happen. He will always give you that leeway. And that was very powerful coming from her with me going into this, because she even asked me, what are you doing? Who's that person that you're going to be talking to, and that just made me start to be comfortable in opening up to her for the first time. I could say to her, Mom, there's a lady I'm meeting, her name is Briggs, and she's a shaman. I'm ready to have those kind of bold conversations with her. So it was quite powerful what happened just now before this, right? And God, how we met. I remember first I went to a expo, right? Cannabis expo.
Okay.
In Joburg. And then I met Linda. I've always known Linda from Chiba. And then there was this small hut that said Mushroom Expo.
Okay.
And I thought, because for me, mushrooms have always been like drugs. Stay off it, won't help you with anything and stuff. And I got that. I spoke to a couple of people, and then long story short is I found myself preparing for a ceremonial mushroom course with yourself, and I had never done mushrooms. I didn't know why I was doing this. Something inside of me just felt like this feels right, and the journey since then, which was 2021 in April, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Because it was supposed to happen in Feb, yeah?
I have no idea. For me, I asked earlier, I was like, are we in 2023? Is that where we are? Is that where we are? Not to let the viewers think that I'm not grounded and balanced, but I'm working in zero time, and time is going so fast, so it's irrelevant to me.
Yeah. So, but just to get to how we met is I attended one of the ceremonies, and I remember one thing I said there for myself was that this feels like coming home. It's the first thing I ever did with no one knowing in my life. No one knew I was there, just except myself. And I had so much faith in a voice within me that I just said, I'm not letting go of this. This has always made sense to me. It's something I've never done before. I don't have a reference of anyone that has particularly done it, and since then till today, a lot of the contacts I've been with, like Gogo Tongo and Justine, are from that particular ceremony where you and I connected.
What's interesting to me is, so you went to this cannabis expo, there was a little mushroom hut there. I mean, they would have been doing a talk on psilocybin mushrooms and things like that. How did you find my details? Because if someone's doing a talk at an expo, they would usually be marketing their own services, which I assume they would have done. Although, again, assumption is never a good thing. So were they just really there to educate about psilocybin and mushrooms and maybe even medicinal mushrooms? Or were they kind of marketing ceremonial, more shamanic information as well?
Both.
Okay.
There was an aspect of both.
Okay.
And that's where I met John. John introduced me to the Temple of the Universe.
Yes.
Something. Yeah.
Yes.
And the lady there, Yvette.
Okay.
Yvette was planning the event, and I was in contact with Yvette.
Okay.
It was through Yvette. It was through Yvette.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand. Okay.
So
through the mycelial network, that's beautiful. Yes, and I remember your experience. It's always interesting having African people come in because there's a strength that resides. And it's interesting, like pockets of people from a cultural perspective. And of course, I'm not trying to stereotype, but through thousands of people that I've done this work with, there's these pockets of cultural genetics that respond in different ways, and often they are the same ways. Like, the South African Indian people in ceremony is often, I know what's going to happen. With the African people, it's very interesting because you just actually never know what's going to happen from the ancestral parts. To those viewers who are quite international or not from South Africa or Africa at all, we have and by we, I've lived in South Africa my whole life. I'm currently in Europe, but we have a strong tribe of people whose DNA is very attuned to their ancestral genetics. And obviously we could go into conversation about what ancestral genetics means, but let's keep it simple for the sakes of this call. The ancestral genetics would be speaking to the blood lineage, and in terms of land and tribes. So when that fire comes in through the opening of the chakras in these kind of spaces, it's always quite an interesting space for me, because the ancestors, traditionally speaking, the story or creation story that is told within the African people is that the ancestors are generally fucking angry, And particularly when you're doing work with a white woman under the title of shamanism and not African shamanism or medicine work, it can get tricky, because ultimately when we're in these spaces, we're dealing with belief systems. And this is what the AZURITE Temple is about, is really just putting all the stories away, putting everything away and simplifying and coming back to the law of one. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to share a little bit with regards to your ancestry. And of course, the entry into this call was bringing up your mom. So let's go a little bit into that story, because I think it's really powerful and potent. And also what I noticed was your mom's words were, when God has a plan, he will open the path for you. So here we are referring to the man in the sky as the masculine, as history has known it. Yeah, as history has known it, and as many people on planet Earth refer to the God, which would bring us to religious Christian context, right? So if you could share a little bit about that background, I think it would be really powerful and interesting, because it will lead us straight to your now moment and your predicament / awakening.
Predicament, I like that word. So let me start here, right? A few days ago, so for those that don't know, rather, I grew up Christian. I used to be that person that went to church Monday to Sunday, dance, youth group, worship. I was that person, even in the family, right? Just for people to have a background. And
Yes.
we've never generally practiced anything cultural.
Traditional.
Never.
Yeah.
Traditional, you know.
Yeah.
I remember my colleagues would say to me, "Are you sure? Maybe they hid it from you. There's no way you can live and not practice that." So I don't know. I was not aware of those things from home.
Actually, before you carry on, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
The two medicine people you are working with at this point in time happen to be two white girls. And is there ever a thought process within you that are like, these girls have adopted and honored the South African way more than I have?
I don't really have that because I don't do the whole black white thing, you know.
Yeah. But okay, so take
But
that away. But like, let's say you've got two souls in front of you that
yeah,
are,
yeah.
are undoubtedly from a
They're jumping
colonized.
into this. They're
Yes.
jumping into this, and what the hell am I scared of? Like, I'm like, you know, when I tell people, I'm like, listen, they're white, okay, and they make me do this stuff, so stop it. Because it's that, the bravery and the courage of,
Mm,
I mean, Gogo is with people that she's struggling with a language barrier at the moment, you know. It
mm,
takes a certain kind of bravery to face that. And so for me, looking at the both of you is more of, I can do it. Like
mm,
literally, I can do this. It's
mm,
hard, but I can do this. Okay.
mm.
So anyway, are you good now? Can I go back?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So so that's me in terms of my Christianity and how I grew up until recently the awakening started. And my father passed, and I realized, but I'm still connected to him. It's
Mm,
as if he's within me, you know. And there's certain physical things I need to do to connect with him. I believe that so much, and I struggled to find books that could confirm it. I had to rely on my faith. I
mm,
had to rely on me, you know. And for me to be able to get to this point today, I took lots of risks, you know. I went into spaces no one has ever been in my family, you know.
mm,
Um, and it's something that concerns my mom because she feels not with the last child, because I'm the last of the seven, you know, not with this one. So she's going to hold on to her faith because her understanding is this is not what we do and this is not godly.
mm.
So I'm trying to give it a picture and an idea of how risky, maybe not risky, let me say courageous, how courageous the journey has been, right? And I wouldn't change it for anything. It's been the best blessing of my life.
Mm,
Very scary. It took some guts. It tore me, but it was beautiful. And I wouldn't change that for anything. And my faith in that and how far I've come compares to nothing anyone else outside of me can ever say.
mm,
To a point where, now coming back to what I wanted to tell you is, my mom said to me with a bold voice, "Kutu, stop, come and pray. Thank God for the journey. We're home safe." I instantly got scared because right now I don't know how to pray based on how prayer is, where they ask for something. I can't relate to that. Um, well, so I got scared and I couldn't pray. And at the same time, I'm thinking, oh my God, my mom is going to think I'm so far from God, I can't even say a prayer. I
yes.
went through those conflicts
When was
instantaneously.
this?
This past weekend when we were at home,
Okay. That's very
I went home this
interesting.
past weekend.
That's very interesting to me. And I think this is, and I'll tell you why, but I think this is an important time to just mention that Kutu's gone through quite an intense initiationary path. So we've had other people on the show and we've shared these stories, but we've got an addition here. Sometimes within a soul's blueprint, physical ailment and illness comes into the body that kind of just wipes us off of our little pedestals there and it demands us to check in, right? And so when we're dealing with the gravity of this kind of life and death situations, obviously we go through existential crisis, which we can call dark night of the soul. Kutu had already started her spiritual journey before that, but this was a big catalyst towards that. The reason I say I'm surprised that you are unable to pray and why I'm giving this story is the surprise to me is that you have enough training within you along your initiation path that I would have thought that you would have known exactly what to do in that moment. However, I also know that you are under a huge amount of stress and delayering and dissolving, that it doesn't matter what I think in the present now moment. You know, you may be dealing with so much that in that moment your mom asked you to pray, you glitched, and clearly that's what happened. Because you know, because so let me open it up to you and say, do you know why I think that it was strange for you to act in that way of, oh, I don't know, and what you would have or could have done?
No, I don't.
Well, simple, guys. Just drop into the heart. So simple, you know. And so I feel like you went into a story of like, okay, who am I praying to? This is not maybe this is not my, so the first one, who am I praying to? Right. And I don't know if I feel comfortable with this because I've been doing all of this other work, etc., etc. And then we've got to go into a story here because we got to please our ancestor, meaning our mother. And instead of going, absolutely, I'll pray with you to myself, to my heart, to my body. I will pray through my heart. It's crazy how you went into a story so quickly.
Yeah. I guess it's an indication that there's still some work to be done, because to a certain extent, I still regard her as a someone who needs to give approval.
Yes.
Because, for instance, I realized that I'm unable to openly say my declaration of sovereignty with her in the room because I know that it's so different from because I care about what she's going to think.
Of course.
So there's still some work. That's evidence of it.
Yes.
That there's that work that is needed, you know, and I'm seeing that now.
And that's why I said, and that's why I said, I want the listeners to know that, you know, I am in absolute honor of everyone's process and cycle and the time that it takes, because it takes time and there's so many layers. But the reason I was cheeky on the call is because Kutu and I have been working together for quite some time, and it did surprise me. And also it's just, it's beautiful conversation. It's beautiful conversation. So our mothers, our ancestors, and this is it, you know, this is.
Can I tell you the beauty of it though?
Please do.
At the same time, I'm learning how to make traditional porridge, you know. I'm learning how my mom grew up. She's sharing stories of her past, her pains, easily so. So the lessons I need to get are automatically coming out through this process.
Good.
And as that happens, for some reason, we start to gel into a synergy, you know, and we find ourselves saying, I say to her, but mom, can't you feel this energy? You know, if this was not of light, you wouldn't be here this long. My mom has been here for like 3 weeks, you know. So And she resonates that, and for her and I to get to that, that's when I'm like, you know what? There's power in thought. There's power in thought and creation. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Well, we are in a reality field that is constructed through mentalism. So, of course, there's power in thoughts. And that's the whole point of all spiritual teachings is, do you understand you are a creator God being? Because the moment you think it, it is.
Yep.
And so this is where Christianity and hardcore Christian belief systems would be in resistance, because they don't like it when you call the creator, so that which is outside of them, in terms of the verbal way that they tell the creation story, they would be very insulted and shocked with another being for that being to call themselves God.
Yeah.
And so this is the main conflict with that which we call spiritual teachings and religious teachings, particularly within the Christian faith. I don't know, I'm not a master at all religions in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, that's a big one. And it's really interesting because the last ceremony that I did, that statement, I am God, I am sovereign, I am free. We did a heart declaration, etc., etc. I had everyone close their eyes. And then I got everyone to say, and they could use the word source, I am creator, I am God, I am prime creator, or whatever they needed to. I am sovereign, I am free. And I got them to say that 3 times. And then I wanted to check in, because obviously I'm teaching at any point in time. I wanted the other 2 facilitators to see. And I did a check-in with everybody. I said, keep your eyes closed. Who found that statement uncomfortable, particularly and particularly calling yourself God? And it was 3 people raised their hands, of which one was an African woman. The other was someone moving through a process of healing through addiction programs, so with Narcotics Anonymous and all of that, and these addiction centers, rehabilitation centers, deeply, I think 80% of them on the planet refer to the teachings of the Christ. It's very, very religious, indoctrinated healing spaces. So I was expecting his hand to go up. I saw her hand, and I can't remember the third person. And so we see who within the space about to enter into God domain, meaning the all one, is in what belief system. So I just thought I'd share that. Yeah. Because that might be an interesting conversation. Hopefully we wish that it comes through in a conversation with you and your mom, and not an argument. Because
yeah.
Yeah.
It's been and also this taught me humbleness.
Yes.
This journey, this experience taught me to be humble, not to think that I'm any better or haven't gotten,
Yes.
It just is what is,
Yes.
and if it's love and if it's light, it will go and become in sync, So that's what I learned the past couple of weeks, and also having the opportunity of seeing my mom at this age.
Yes.
Physically.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing. It's something that as humanity, it doesn't excite us. It's like the doom and gloom. Oh, let's go age and die. People don't want to live until they're 80. And why would you not if you're healthy? So seeing my mom in this state is so beautiful, and I'm learning a lot more again about, at this stage, a fellow human being is going through this physically. I'm seeing ahead, and it's very, very humbling. It's very humbling to realize that one day I will be there, and my son will be here. how would I take it? So it's as if I'm the child and the mother at the same time, of which I am, because by virtue of my names, I am Kutupi, who is her mom, and I'm also her daughter. So I play two roles in my mom's life, a daughter and a mother role. And I think she's starting to realize that now.
Yes, yes.
She's starting to realize that now.
Yeah, it's powerful because, my mom holds so much resistance to receiving anything, any teachings, any guidance, even just compassion. I'm not saying I need to be in the teacher role all the time at all, particularly with my mom. I'm in very much awareness of that, but it's like, so that's why I mentioned the word compassion. She's even resistant to me being soft and gentle and compassionate with her, which those attributes you would attribute to the feminine, you would attribute that to a mother energy. So she's resistant to that mother energy, even though I'm not mothering her. I'm literally showing the slightest, tiniest bit of compassion, and maybe like a little bit of guidance of like, look, run a bath, or you've got PTSD, a bath is not going to cut it. Like you're going to need a bit of trauma release or things like this. And only now she's going through a big shift, but she's just doing it all on her own, yeah. I want to kind of move further into where you're at now with regards to your healing process with your physical body and your mental body, because you've had quite an interesting past couple of months, and also closer to this timeline, past couple of weeks. So I kind of also want to just ask to touch base on that which you have been receiving back from your doctors in terms of their resistance, and also maybe not even resistance. It's like just blind. It's like they just ignorance. Yes, it's not even anything within their spectrum. No one's ever challenged the status quo. So let's chat a little bit about that, and obviously that'll segue beautifully into your time in the mental clinic now as well, because as much as I know that is as much as I know that is sensitive, it's so interesting, because I would say, Kutu, why the fuck didn't you give me a call? Like, and Gogo would have said the same thing. However, you would never have received the teachings you received had you not been in that institution. So let's go.
I feel like I have a thing. It's like a thing for pain. I don't know. But anyway. So in terms of my mental health at the moment, I've been sharing a lot. I would have to share a lot with someone who would get it, to make sure that I receive the correct serving feedback. I've learned that that's where I'm at right now. I'm very conscious what I share and where and with who, especially what state I'm in, right?
And how would you describe your state?
Yeah, okay. So the state, I remember early this year when I called you the first time it happened. I felt like I was going bonkers. It felt like I can't think, I can't move. Like, it felt as if there's no signal going through. Like I was losing signal. Like literally, that's the only way I can explain it. And at that time, I knew very well that if I call any of my sisters, they'll take me into a mental institution. I knew very well.
Yeah.
And my heart said to call you. My heart said to call you. And soon after that, I connected with Gogo Tongo, very soon after that incident, So that's how it felt for me. Feeling out of place, feeling like I'm the only one who sees this. Who else is seeing this? So finding, and that's why I said when I attended your ceremony and I said it felt like coming home, is because I was like, geez, there's people that kind of think like me, more hectic, but you know what? It's making sense.
They're just a little bit more crazy.
Yeah, hey, it's really, yeah.
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure to represent the Mad Clan.
Which is which I love, because my opinion of mental issues is very different. So I'm not really saying this from a insulting point, you know. So
Yes,
mentally, that's
yes.
how I've been, but physically, I've been going through the most. I drastically had to change diet, and I lost like more than 4 kilograms in 4 months, you know. But I feel physically strong. I exercise very well. The other day I went for a run. I feel great. So I'm not really worried
How are your
about
test
that. I
results,
know.
by the way? Because the last time, the reason I mentioned this, and again, this is an open platform, so I know that's possibly a very sensitive question, but
No.
the reason I ask is because I remember our conversation. I was actually at the airport in Sweden, and you were saying this one altercation that you had with the doctor where he was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so worried about you," and da 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 da, and you were like, that's great, that's beautiful compassion, but actually what you are is triggered by me because you want me to act in this way. Yet
Yeah.
my test results with regards to, I mean, I don't know all of the tests, but they are coming back saying that I'm good. I'm actually super, super strong. So are you projecting onto me, doctor? So yeah, like.
So honestly, to tell you the truth, in terms of my test results, I really don't place my focus on those numbers. I have more. I'm not there. I focus on living.
Good.
You know,
Nice.
I focus on experiences I'd like to have, going to Naledi, spending time with my mom, positive things. What those papers come back and say have got nothing. Like it could be an indication. I value the information, but hence you ask me how were they? Fundamentally, I don't know. Long story short is the size of my lump. Okay, those that don't know.
Yeah, it's time.
How do I say it? Because can I use the word diagnose? I feel like it's such an evil word. But anyway,
It's not an
I've been
ego
diagnosed
word.
with breast cancer.
Yes.
Okay, I've been diagnosed with breast cancer, which at the moment I would like to actually phrase it this way and say, I'm learning to heal myself through this.
Through this physical symptom. Yes.
Through this physical symptom,
Yeah.
which is really hectic. And you said it earlier. You said sometimes one can get a slap that makes you stop everything. You know, this made me stop everything. No one had to tell me anything. Usually, I would consult my mom, my sisters, my doctor, and whatnot. When this happened, when I got my results, I knew there and then what I needed to do. And since then, can I say I didn't fuck around? Like I didn't give a fuck. Literally, I really can I say that on this platform?
Yes, of
Use
course you
those words.
can. It's called Delicately Wild for a reason.
Ah, thank you. I really didn't give a rat's ass because I felt like knowing myself, I would have put this as the ultimate, knowing myself, you know. So I know myself, so let me listen to myself. That's what it's been. And so I got to the doctor, and this man is someone, again, that indication of putting people above thyself, meaning myself, someone I look up to, very big in the industry in terms of mental illness, deep connection. I've known him for 10 years, and he also has, he's a very unique individual, you know, and so him and I, we always spoke, you know. I remember when my journey started and I would see things and I would hear voices. I said to him, I said, I'm going to go away for 5 days. And if you don't hear from me, book me in, you know? And I did that. So that's our connection, right? That's how we relate. And that's how much he has an idea of this journey, right? So for me to walk into there and for him to be like, you've lost weight, you're dying. I was like, my word, why would you say those things to me? Like,
yeah. I mean,
I
I
wanted
say
to,
I say shame based on the human spirit, because you do have a close
yeah.
connection with this particular doctor.
Mm.
Maybe it wasn't the most ideal bedside manner, but it was authentic, right? So, and that's why I say, oh,
I know.
shame, cute. It was
Yeah.
very authentic.
Yes.
Because the moment we see someone losing weight, we're like, oh my God, and we know that they have a cancer diagnosis, we're like, oh my God, they're dying. Instead of going, oh,
No.
well, she's fasting, she's doing this, she's doing that, she's,
Mhm.
she's starving the
She's
cancer cells of this and then the next. Yeah.
rewiring her body, so that she can deal with this. So
Yeah.
that's literally what's happening. Um, so I was kind of disappointed that he,
Projected.
yeah, and the fact that he didn't get what I wanted to do. I mean, I told you. I told you I didn't take those meds in hospital. I used to put them in my pocket and act like I'm loonies, because I was there for another reason. I was there for another reason which I didn't understand before, and
Yes. So
that's what this
let me
journey's
just
been
give
like
some
that.
context, because
Oh
obviously
yeah, okay.
I know your journey, but we're
Yeah.
missing some information here. So Kutu's obviously had this diagnosis. She's been, as she said, listening to her inner self, doing the things that she needs to do, reframing everything, and really listening. And of course, this diagnosis came also within this period of going through an awakening and boosting that awakening. We've also got the mother aspect, which is the ancestral aspect, which is the feminine. We've spoken about breast cancer. So this is all the links here. And oftentimes, when she is, and again, you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just summarizing, when she's going through some big stuff, she's got this connection with a psych doctor who's able to kind of book her off by assisting her in getting out of workspace and jumping into some me time, which happened to be in the form of a mental health space.
Oh yeah.
So this is the doctor that she's referring to, and this request came from her because she just needed to get time off work and spend time with herself. And although she self labels as, sometimes she thinks she's going bonkers, it was really just a space of like, cool, I'm going to check this in. And again, she has someone like me as a support system, but her soul was like, nah, I'm going to go check out this facility. So let's go on from there.
So,
and as she mentioned,
I think,
pocketing the meds into her pocket and then acting a little loony,
yeah,
which
I
is
had
fucking
to.
crazy. But
I
yeah.
had to, so that they don't see that I'm not taking the meds, and then they tell the doctor, and then he was going to
Yes.
give me an injection. I didn't want that. That thing puts you out for 2 days. I was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't want that, you
Yeah.
know. Look, I took the injection the first couple of times, the first time, because I needed to sleep. I was fucking
Yeah.
tired, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I said, I'm gonna have to come back real clean out of this one and clean my system. We'll see. At some point these things must just work. I was at that point, right?
Yes. Yes.
And the first week, beautiful process. Let me tell you, first of all, I was in my own room. I was on the second floor. There was basically no one. No one bothered me. I had the entire space to myself.
Ah,
So
nice.
I could pray, I could exercise,
And
and
rest.
and rest. And that was the first week. That silence I needed, the silence from everything, all the chaos to stop, right? In a space where I won't have to worry about my son or my mom or work or this.
And also a space where your medical aid is covering this, right?
Yes,
Yes.
because financially I'm seeing flames right now,
Yes. Yes.
because majority of my diet and meds is cash, it's not medical aid.
Yes.
So it's fun, it's fun. I'm seeing interesting things here. So that part was beautiful. The first week, me being in that space and having that all to myself, it was beautiful. I was not involved with anyone downstairs. And I think it was when we spoke on the phone, it was as if we created that connection, because it was towards the end of the week. And I realized, okay, enough now. You asked the doctor to bring you here. So can we figure out why the fuck we're here?
Mm.
So I'm like, okay, fine. That was after our talk. Now I'm connecting to some of the patients. Now I'm realizing that there's 4 patients in there who also have a calling, but they seem to be given the meds once they get into this trance. What the hell is going on?
A
So,
calling, guys, just so you know,
oh, yeah.
a calling in South African terminology it's either called a calling or a sickness, where your spiritual activation begins to happen. So yeah, carry on.
Okay, thanks. And I
Their body's
realized,
going to
yeah,
trance. Yeah.
the body goes into trance, so you just freeze. Um, I'm not familiar with a lot of the stuff, remember? So
Look,
it's
ultimately, we can say again, many African people watching this may be
mm,
like, oh yes, the fucking ancestors moved them into a
mm,
trance where their bodies froze. Okay.
yeah,
Or we could say logically, the soul connected to the spirit, connected to the mind, is speaking to the nervous system, and the nervous system is going into freeze. So fight,
yeah,
flight, freeze. Okay.
yeah,
So again,
yeah.
this is why this is important and exciting, because we can look at things and be like, whoo, there's
Mm-hmm.
something moving through her. Yes, it's an energy, but it's
Yes,
also just the nervous system. The body is going, I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want this. The mind is going, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I'm freezing. I'm panicking. I'm in panic mode. And the spirit is going, clearly,
I'm
this is
there.
not in alignment.
Yes,
So,
you
yeah.
know. Thank you for that. So I saw that in them, and I didn't understand why they were giving them meds. I thought maybe they would help them somehow. So that made me realize a gap for healers, because I'm passionate about healing. Or maybe an opportunity to talk about it, to say how are people doing it out there. Um, and you mentioned something very crucial. When I got to hospital, I made it known that I asked to be checked in.
Yes.
I made it known because I didn't want. And remember, at this point, I haven't shared this. Let me share this. After I had my interaction with my doctor,
Mm.
I got into such fear mode that I literally
Mm.
thought he would render me bonkers. Therefore, they're going to decide what to do for me if I share everything with him.
Yeah, that's a very powerful share. That's a very powerful share, because you mentioned your sovereignty, your reclamations of sovereignty,
Yeah,
on our spiritual path we will get tested, right? So
yeah,
that's very powerful. Thank you, Kutu, because when you share in such a degree and you speak your mind, you speak your truth, and the other person is not really able to be objective, because this man, you have a friendship, you've known each other for 10 years. And
yeah,
again, here we have compassion and sympathy for the human
yeah,
spirit,
yeah.
and maybe sometimes it's good to go to someone who doesn't know you, who doesn't have that connection to you. And so, yeah, I think you were very right to move into that space of cautiousness, because that's where our telepathy comes in, and our expanded consciousness would say, okay, well, within this expanded consciousness, I am in understanding that I can view and observe people's belief systems playing out. So if his belief system is so in opposition to mine, this could be detrimental for me in the now moment
Yes,
while I'm
yes,
literally in a
yes.
psych ward.
But
So yeah,
literally,
like, oh
no,
shit, what have I done?
it
Yeah.
can turn. Yeah, I needed to be very smart, right?
Yes.
Hence everything.
So what did you
I
do?
needed. I'm trying to find a way. I grounded myself. I
Mm,
remember that first week, I spent time in my room, and I was just on meditation. I needed strength from a place I don't know. Thinking about it right now just freaks me out.
yeah.
I literally said, it's do or die.
Yeah.
And there's no one. There's no one. I need to pick myself up, right?
Mm,
And once I'm up, that's when I felt the support and strength from everyone else in union with what I'm doing at a universal level. And that comfort of being alone through that, but not feeling alone, gave me immense bravery to say, I'm going to find a way of doing this. You know, I'm going to find a way of reaching out to him. And it's going to work out the way I wanted it to work out, you know.
Yes, girl.
So,
because you are a creative being.
Yeah, it's like, you know, there's a reason I'm here. So, that's what I did with him. And I'm trying to remember why I got to the point where I'm telling you about how I was now scared of my doctor. Or I was not opening up. And if I'm not opening up, I'm not getting the help I need because there's an intention I'm there, you know. But anyway, so can I also now share what also I picked up
Yes.
in the hospital? I don't get it. And it's something that I experienced with a lot of doctors through this journey, is that no one ever told me to start eating healthy and exercise and drink a lot of water.
I know, because I was going to say in the beginning, you know, of this conversation, you said when you got your diagnosis, you were like, cool, I'm all in, I'm full in. However, as far as I remember, your diet only changed a couple of months in. And I remember speaking to you about diets and raw food and all of this, but you know, maybe that wasn't what you needed to hear from the shaman. I'm the one that deals with the psyche and the spirits, and you needed to hear that from one of your Western doctors, because I know you only made that switch a couple of months in, and that could have been a time saver. And many people say this. Many people on many platforms are like, and ask in medicine, when they study medicine, it's like a week or an hour, 2 hours of nutrition. It's like ridiculous.
So that bothered me. That really concerned me. And I also realized that now I need to know everything, because this new diet, in as much as I remember I was talking to myself about this, to say it's going to be so difficult for, especially for myself. It was very challenging, rather, for myself as an African woman, to adjust to this new diet of mung beans and sesame seeds and black seeds. I didn't know those things. Back at home, we had moroho and pap and gravy and eggs, and they were organic. I now understand they were organic. We were okay then, but
Yes.
now the food is no longer the same.
Yes.
And now I have this new universe of nutrition and taking care of my body physically.
Yes.
Because in as much as I'm going through a spiritual change, there's a physical change that is adjusting accordingly.
Yes.
You know, and so if we're going to speak health, the food needs to be in alignment. And
yes,
it was just really sad. And also, one thing I observed is that there was no physical movement encouragement for the patients. A lot. So
was this in the psych ward?
Yeah, this was in the psych ward.
Yeah, I mean, they're so sedated that that's how they want it, you know. So for me, I'm always like, I look at psych clinics and it breaks my heart, because I'm like, this is the furthest thing that I would call healthy and healing. It's literally like the opposite end of the spectrum of what health and healing looks like. It just and also the way they are treated, of like, you know, some psych patients are treated like real, like criminals and crazies. Like they're treated like shit. And
I remember,
it's not right.
It's not. If I can share, and that's why at any given point, that felt like Hunger Games for me. Being in there felt like Hunger Games. I mean, I haven't watched it fully, but I had that experience because there was this young boy. At first, when he came, he looked very scary. I was very scared of him, and I felt unsafe, right? I think he was still high on drugs or something. I don't know. Those that know would know. And I think a couple of days later, he became okay, and him and I connected so much, right? But I don't know whether it's due to the drugs, because I don't know what drugs particularly do to people. He was a bit slow in speech and a bit so, but I understood him for some reason. I understood that he needs to draw, he needs music, and there's a way you need to connect with him. And I realized, could this child be a star seed and he's in a place where he's not understood? And as a result, could it be possible that now he's just, I don't know, maybe a programming is shutting down, or what is this? Like, it's as if I just felt like these children or these individuals need to know what I know based on what you've taught me since we've met, that knowledge can really give them something I can't put into words. I'm not saying this is perfect. I'm not saying this is the gospel, but it opens one to a certain level of self-love that one tends to know oneself, irrespective of what another person is going to say. So,
well, I think what it does is give validation to what they're experiencing, because what a psych ward does is it's like a bad child program. So you've been a naughty child because you don't fit into this box. Whereas that particular boy, whether we call him autistic, whether we call him on the spectrum, whether we call him Asperger's, whether we call him a drug addict, or whether we call him literally going through an awakening, whether we call it a kundalini, whether we call him a starseed, whatever. The point is, like you say, any doctrine that is given, or let's take the word doctrine out of that, any information that is given is merely for him to, maybe some of that information sits well with him, and he can then validate, personal validation and re-identification of how he fits into this planet, or how they fit into this planet, without feeling like the naughty child who doesn't fit into the box. So
yeah, and I looked at him. He has such a beautiful personality where he didn't care what people think. Every time he said something, people were like, "Oh, here he goes again." Literally, people were very impatient with him.
Yes, and that's what I
He
mean.
was so
People
beautiful.
treat them like shit. Like anything outside of the box is treated like shit.
But he responded so lovingly. I was just like, oh my God, you're going to make it in life, because literally he's so in tune with how he chooses to feel, So that was one beautiful take out from that space, to say, perhaps the more of us get together, we may not necessarily do things the same way, but if we're all aligned to the same positively polarized source consciousness, then we can get to understand and show each other some way at some point. And it won't have to be that hectic, where you said, could you not have just called me, things like that. So I feel like it's an opportunity for us to identify and then make it easier and better and quicker.
And also, let's chat. I mean, in the last bit of our thing, I want to chat about the other African women that were in there. So you mentioned a calling. I kind of took you off a little bit there. There's a lot of protein in this call. So you're mentioning how, like, you were observing how their bodies went stiff. I went into the teaching about the nervous system again, but how, if I remember correctly, one of those women, or so there were two, let's say, if I'm remembering correctly, yes. So one was, let's say, both of them are what we call a sangoma, or having a calling. Okay. So essentially, if we take those words away, both of them are activated in their psychic skill sets. Okay. We have then one who wants to go down this road. She wants to honor it, but there is a parent involved that is not having any of it, right? Because we're now dealing with demonic forces. This is now the Christian versus traditional thing, right? And then the other one who's got the gift, but she doesn't want anything to do with it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that was very interesting. And the girl who had a problem with the parent of some other mother, she was in her, I think, grade 11, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And she had embraced it. She had such bravery and such determination. I could see that her mother must just accept,
Yes.
And
because that's the
and
soul contract, right? Because it's never just happening to the one. We are all connected.
To all of us,
yes.
And so I shared with her. She and I had a session, we connected, and one thing that was common was that, and that came out of there that I'd like to share, is that I learned that, and I mentioned it earlier, is that in as much as we are the children, we are also the mothers, and it's something, I don't know how to explain it. This DNA thing, my grandmother lives in me, her DNA is here. I can activate, I can connect to it. And that's what happens when some of them, well, I think, I haven't really looked into it. So for one to go against it, for her and I, we said, you know what, we need to do it for our mothers.
So did she chat about her grandmother at all? Was her grandmother very Christian, or was her grandmother the one that would have had the gifts similar to her?
The grandmother had similar gifts to her. The grandmother on the mother's side, those are the ones that she's been connecting with,
Yeah,
so how it works is that
because I was going to say, usually it skips a generation. So the reason I want to bring this in is you said so beautifully, the DNA of her grandmother or of our grandmothers exists within us. So she can feel her grandmother. And when we also said there's no separation between the lineage, so the mother is in resistance, and this is happening to the daughter, but via the grandmother. The grandmother's knocking on the mother's shoulder to be like, hey winner, you're this is our lineage, this is our culture, this is our way, and not even ours as separation as African people. This is our way as humanity. We are connected to spirit, not our way as Africans. We are connected to spirit. That's fucking it. So stop continuing to check your daughter into the psych ward because it makes you feel uncomfortable, and that's where we're at.
So they checked it in because they just felt like it's a lot. Maybe she needs to take medication just to tone it down a bit. And I said, it's going to get wilder, it's really going to get wilder. But what was beautiful was that we were chilling after we spoke the first time she and I connected, right?
Yes.
We're chilling on the balcony, and she came closer instantaneously. When she came closer, I felt her energy. And she also shriveled. I'm like, and everybody was like, what's happening? I said, no, we're connecting. So, and she's like, how come? I don't know you, you don't know me. I said, yes, but there's a resonance in our energy. It's not about us. It's more of where the energy is from, which is quite beautiful for me, because for me, it goes beyond the African ancestors.
Yes.
For me,
yes.
It goes as far back as Japan, animals. It really goes that far back for me, right? And that is why I'm not able to just get stuck on the whole Twasa, which is the initiation program that we have, and just say I'm going to Twasa.
Yes.
That's something else that's worth sharing, I would say, because I'm going through that. In as much as I was raised so Christian, and I'm delving into this space guided by white women, I don't want to twasa well, let me not say I don't want to. It's not coming up for me to do it how it's been done.
Correct.
And yet I'm learning to trust the steps that are coming, because the connection for me is beyond that. I feel connected to Japan. I feel connected to Egypt. I feel connected to, so I'm more following that bigger, deeper, further, older connection, which is what I loved with your ceremonies, and that's what I connected to.
Beautiful. Yeah. I'm kind of going to end off here and just kind of just round this all up is, to again, those of you listening, Twasa is a very interesting process. And again, like Kutu said, it means initiation within the medicine tribes of South Africa, particularly, so that you can become either an Nyanga or a Sangoma, right? And it's become quite a trend now, actually, which could bring us into the false light teachings. It has also traditionally been quite patriarchal. It has also, much like many shamanic tribes or plant medicine tribes or any place on planet Earth, it has its very, very dark side, the dark magic side to it. So the reason I'm sharing this is, even though we call it X, it is like much of what is presented to us in our reality. It has the light, it has the dark, it has the labeling, it has the falseness, it has the truths. And like Kutu says, we're expanding beyond this now, where we want to honor our ancestors. And of course, we then question ourselves, what are our ancestors? Is it earth, air, fire, water? Is it those from Egypt, those from Japan? Is it our grandmother, grandfather blood lineage within the DNA? Or is it our galactic cosmic lineage? And also, let me just create this aspect in here. Is it our galactic cosmic lineage? Or is it, or are we still stuck in stories of that, the false gods and the false archangelics and the false creator beings that are out there presenting to you as your lineage? So this is a big fucking melting pot of everything. I've just overwhelmed Kutu again successfully, but she should know me by now. And, this is what we're going to be going through in the AZURITE Temple, is to all the stories aside, all the labeling aside, coming to Ascension mechanics. And I think this is why you've been drawn to me as well, is because we keep mentioning Gogo. Gogo means grandmother in South Africa. She's a very dear friend of mine, a sister. Siantara ere I ara ki tiantara ora ele siantara ki ara kiantana Yuruara ele I sianja kiantana here I ara ere ki anta. Okay, so she asiandana kia. She's clearly very special to me. And although she's my galactic sister, she holds very much of the African codes, right? And it's not to say I don't, but our paths are different at this point in time. I think I'm also, 10 years older, have a innumerable amount of years more experience, etc. But the AZURITE Temple is about the Ascension mechanics, where we stop all the stories, all the psychospiritual things, all the ancestral stuff, all of it. And we really tune into the body. And then we bring the mechanisms in so that you can feel it happening in your body. If I focus on my left nipple, I'm just being humorous here, but if I focus on my left, if I focus on my left nipple, can I make my left nipple hard just through the thought process and this? Can we feel it in the body? Because that's what it is. We are on planet Earth to feel everything, and this is what embodiment is. So I'm going to end off there. Kutu, thank you for the very, very awesome conversation. You didn't quite close on your one sentence. You said, although I am not fully focused on my results, although I use them as data sets, the lump on my breast has?
Oh, it decreased.
Thank you.
I didn't finish that.
You didn't finish the sentence.
Yes, I did not.
And I thought, and I thought now, whoa, this is tricky territory for me to go in as I end this, because what if she says something else? But I was like, nah, bro, we are here delicately wild. We're delicately wild. And so congratulations for that, because she has been, it's not fighting the system. That's not what she's doing. She's been observing the system. She's been reframing, and she's been working really, really, really hard on many, many things. Her diet, frequency, reclamation statements of her sovereignty. She's been doing the work with her mother, which would be the ancestral work, which would be the honoring of the African lineage. She has been working through this process. She has declined chemo, and this thing has been getting smaller. So, you know, I say this as a story, a delicately wild story to you all to share. Also, please let it be known that I at no point in time guided Kutu not to take chemo. I said that's an issue that she needed to deal with herself. So I just want to mention that, because this is not about being in the Wild West here. You know, it's about reclamation, and that was a choice that she made. And so, yes, may your journey continue to be wild in its delicacy. And please send my love to your mother.
Oh, she said I must say to you hi also.
Oh, that's a big one. Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, she did pass it to me.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kutu. Thank you to all the listeners. We're sending so much love. If you have anything to share, your own personal stories of healing, please feel free. We love you. Cheers. Bye.